This is basically the opposite of pride, because pride makes us exalt ourselves, but God calls us to be humble, to be grounded in Him, and have humility. And we can also see that in Philippians 2:3. It says, "Do nothing out of self-ambition or vain conceit, rather in humility valuing others above yourselves." And I think Adne said this before, but I copied somebody, I'm sure. But humility doesn't mean thinking less of yourself, but it means thinking of yourself less. It basically means that you're not putting yourself above others. You're giving priority to serve others. It can be your brothers, sisters in this room. It can be anybody. And servants, which is something I also give out away. It's about serving others. It's about caring for others or helping others through their struggles. And we can also see that in Matthew 20-28. It says, "I did not come to be served, but to serve." Jesus Himself said that. And true greatness is in God's kingdom and is not marked by how much love we receive from others, but how much love we give to others. And this is actually the most important one. God calls us to be teachable, and we as Christians should be having open mind and willing hearts to learn from others. And basically, where self-idolization rejects correction, God calls us to be teachable. And we also see that in Proverbs 9:9. It says, "Instruct the wise and they will be wiser still." A willing and an open heart honors God far more perfect than the image or whatever prideful desire that we're chasing. And vessels. This is one of my favorite ones as well. God calls us to be vessels because rather than putting ourselves in the center and idolizing ourselves, God calls us to be vessels of His glory. He wants us to be used by Him so that we can reach others who haven't received the gospel, or anybody like that. And in 2 Corinthians 4-7, it reminds us that we hold this treasure in jars of clay to show that the power is from God and it's not from us. And we're not in the same level as God. We're just His children that He can use so that we can reach others around the world who haven't seen Him yet. And dependent. Pride basically convinces us that we can do everything on our own, but God says in John 15:5, "Apart from me, and you can do nothing." And He calls us to live independence in Him, to be confident in Him, not in ourselves, but in Him. And this is not considered weakness, but it's divine strength that comes from surrendering ourselves and submitting ourselves to God and loving. All these three things are rooted in self-centeredness, but God, love, He calls us to be out-centered. He calls us to be other-centered. And we see that in 1 Corinthians 13. It describes love as patient, kind, not self-seeking, which is in other words, not self-idolizing yourself or being prideful, not boastful, and which is basically the opposite of pride, idolization, and self